All right, so we are live, and I am very excited today because this is the first CTC Live, basically cracking the code live with our first speaker. Uh, and welcome everyone to the show. So, let me quickly tell you a quick brief about what this is, and let me then get the speaker on board. So, this is basically a weekly series that we're going to host every week with one of the most prominent personalities uh, in the social media, YouTube, unconventional career space, primarily solopreneurs. And this is called Cracking the Code. So, it's basically presented by a new brand that we have launched called ONFLIT. So what we're going to do in this series is we're going to talk with people who are YouTubers, stand-up comics, digital content creators, basically masters of digital space, solopreneurs, actors, artists, and different kind of people who have achieved a feat in their own career. And they are basically they will be here to talk about their journey, and more importantly, they're also going to talk about skill sets that you need to learn that things that you need to learn from their learnings and failures and knowledge that they have, which will give you more perspective into in terms of how can you build a career in this particular stream. I would like to give a very warm welcome to our first speaker today. She is Freishia, and I'll very soon ask her to jump onto the stream with me. But before that, let me quickly, or rather, let me add her first, and then I'll introduce. So I would want all of you watching this stream. Just to say hi to Freishia, and let me also officially welcome Freishia. So, hey Freishia, how are you? Welcome to Cracking the Code.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for signing up for this and being the first speaker.
I'm so excited. I'm actually so honored that you thought that, I should be your first speaker for this session. And I truly hope that everyone that has tuned in will really, really enjoy and learn from what we have to offer today.
Sure. And I hope you have too much to kind of offer here because I have a certain pointers about your profile, which I'm sure after listening, I would say that it'll be unreal if a few people on the stream might not know you. But I think after listening to your profile, surely a lot of people would get a deeper insight into how diverse kind of things you're doing. So as I said, let me quickly welcome Freishia. She's a TV presenter. She's a master of ceremonies, have done 100 more than like let's say 200 plus events. She has worked with SRK, Hrithik Roshan, Salman Khan, Sachin Tendulkar, Kareen Kapoor, Priyanka Chopra, and lot more. You can find the detailed list of all these people on her website. Right from working with global CEOs to launching a few of the biggest brands, she's been the face of all of them. She's a traveler, she's a foodie, she's a fitness enthusiast. You will, of course, find all this on her Instagram. She's pretty much everywhere in terms of digital platforms. And other than all of these things, she has been a host to a few of the most prominent shows on television. She has been a face of she's basically, if I'm not wrong, you started with Hangout America with NETV
Yeah.
Good Times, and then you became the face of Band Baja Bright season 5. You've done film Fair Award red carpets 2 years in a row, Dubai Diaries, India with Marriott, Lakme Fashion Week, and now she is the Stay Free India's digital YouTube campaign. She's the face of them, and she's also the face of Adidas as the face of their social media. And last but not the least, she is also the content creator and the channel owner at WAC. How do you
Yeah,
manage to do?
best
How do you
part.
manage to do? So how do you manage to do all of this, Risha? Let me start with this question first.
You know, how do you manage to do all of this is the thing with something like that is, and this is something I get asked very, very often, where people are like, but how do you manage to juggle so many different roles? And I actually don't look at all of them as different roles. if you see all these different roles, there is one thing that is common in them, and that
Okay.
is me as a communicator and me as someone who talks basically for a living. So whether it's me on my travel shows, me on WAC, me on Band Baja Bride, or on my Instagram, or more essentially my Master of Ceremonies that I do, all of this is about communicating, and all of it is about how is it that you communicate with people, how to talk to them, and how to get your point across very clearly. And so
Right.
I don't see it as array I do so many different things. I do the same thing on different platforms and in different
Hmm.
ways, but I look at it as exactly the same thing that I do. I just tweak it
Okay.
everywhere.
You tweak it. Okay, that's great. So I think, and I'm sure you love your job. I think you love talking to people, and you love you want to talk as much as possible. I'm sure you love what you do.
Yeah, yeah. It comes. It's something that I've always been as a child. I've always been a chatterbox. I've always been very, yeah. It's like I've always been that person where, like, by the end of it, my sister and my parents would be like, "Arey Baba, abhi chup, बहुत हो गया, पक गए हम
Right.
लोग." But I've been that person, and luckily now, people don't say it that much. Ke Arey Baba chup, because I know when to keep quiet also.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So let's go to the very beginning. Let's start from the point number one, because I'm sure today what you've achieved, a lot of people are already seeing it, and it's pretty much evident, and it's pretty much everywhere, and the kind of things you have with you.
Yeah.
But the idea behind this entire series, and that's, I think, when I reached out to you for coming on board, I think you also showed the similar interest. That I think a lot of people have this question. I'm sure your Instagram inbox and your other social media inboxes would be
Yeah.
bombarded that, hey,
Yeah.
I want to be like you, or how can I be like you? In fact, when we announced that you were the first speaker, a few people reached out to me also that they're a big fan. They're like, we are a very big fan of Freishia ma'am, and we're so happy that you're getting her on board. And
Yeah.
that there are a lot of things we would like to learn from her. So before we go on to the learning part, let's talk about where it all started. Like, so what's been your journey like? What was the first thing you ever did, and where did it all begin? Let's start from there.
So, I think I owe a lot of the kind of job that I do is very personality development heavy.
Right.
At the end of the day, you have to be not only a good communicator, but you also have to have a very well rounded personality to be able to then kind of say that no matter what situation I am put in, I can adapt to that and learn to communicate those points very, very quickly. So, how does one
Absolutely.
become a well rounded personality? There's a lot of things that you do just to work on yourself. But what I have done, and I have been very lucky to have encountered in my life, is that I've also managed to be exposed to a lot of things. And that I owe to my parents. As a child, I did theater. I started at the age, I did professional theater, Dilnawaz, at the age of 5. Imagine being a 5 and a 6-year-old child who's doing professional plays that people are coming and paying money to watch. Of course, at that time, you don't really understand. Matlab, mere liye to it was playtime.
Right.
And yeah, it was like a fun thing for me to do. But at that time, you don't realize, that these are very important seeds that are being planted. I did
Right.
ballet. I continued with, I learned how to play the piano.
Okay.
I continued with my acting throughout school, throughout college. And in college, I was very actively involved in, college में बहुत सारे हमारे societies होते हैं. I headed the English literature department. I was the student rep for that.
Hmm.
I've always been that kind of person who's been very actively involved. And the
Right.
more actively involved you are in things around you, there is a certain amount of personality development that does take place through that. Now, what
Right.
happens to somebody who is, let's say, passed from college, and now you are watching this video and you're like, oh God, but I didn't do any of these things in school. It doesn't matter. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. You can still do that. There are a lot of people that do weekend sessions, let's say for theater. You can go for play readings. There are a lot of
Hmm.
communities where people come together and they say, अच्छा ठीक है, आज बैठ के हम लोग ये play पढ़ते हैं, या तो just go and watch a lot of plays.
Right.
Uh, the next thing that you could also do is make sure that you read a lot, because that is something that really, really does change your outlook. And
Hmm.
read everything. There are
Right.
some days that I will pick up like the most stupidest book which is not relevant to anything that I do, or I'll go on the internet and I'll sit and I'll read something on science which has nothing to do with my life. But
Right.
I want to also understand as much as I can,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day I am a BA graduate only in literature, so I haven't studied all of that. But what I try and do is I read different things. And
Hmm.
I have to confess over here at this point that being an English literature student, I feel that I read so much in college and till very recently that I have my reading has really come down, and it has really, really reduced. And now
Okay.
I'm kind of, I don't read as much, but I go online and I read a lot. So there are different
Right.
ways of still reading and still
Right.
keeping yourself, involved and keeping yourself aware.
Right.
The next thing I think that everyone also should do is that you should also really, really take care of yourself. And
Hmm.
this is something that I get asked a lot, where people tell me that why is it that only stereotypical what our notions and society's notions of good looking is?
Hmm.
Why do only those people get the opportunity? And I
Hmm.
do not believe in that, especially in today's day and age. Look at a lot of our stand-up comedians. Look at a lot,
Absolutely.
a lot of the actors that today you will see on an Amazon show, on a Netflix show. They are like, my God, they are like gods when it comes to their art and their craft. And if your art and your craft is very strong, then these notions that you have in your head, these are just blocks that you have put for yourself.
Right.
These are just limitations that you have put for yourself, and you have said कि नहीं, I'm not fair, no, I'm not this, oh, my hair is short, my hair is long, things like that. These are all walls that you have put for yourself.
The
And
more
I
the the more like a mental barrier. Do you want to say that? Like
correct.
how?
These
Hmm.
are correct. These are mental blocks that we put for ourselves, and we say that. And I'm going to be very honest. Also, these are things that I also suffered from at some point in my life. As
Okay.
human beings, of course, as human beings, we are insecure. We have insecurities. Sabke paas hai, yaar. Today, Shah Rukh Khan has insecurities, and anyone else also has insecurities. You can't help it, because that is just how the human mind is programmed.
Hmm.
There
Hmm.
is a certain ego that comes in.
Hmm.
इसीलिए तो उसको
Hmm.
ego बोलते हैं ना. The ego is
Right.
what drives all of these things.
Right. Right.
So it's best to acknowledge it. It's best to know that it's there, but it's also
Hmm.
best to not let it take over and come in the way of your progress.
Right.
So all,
Absolutely.
all this being put aside, if you feel that okay, I didn't have all this exposure as a child, it's still not too late. I'll give you the example. There are so many things that we see where we see that, like, Tesla invented something at the age of 45. Look at really good actors. Some of them have like had their biggest breaks and have really come through at a much older and a much later phase in life. And we're
Hmm.
programmed to think, yaar, if by 16 or by 20, if I'm not like already, the next big startup, or on my way to becoming like in the line for a CEO or something, because
Hmm.
we now
Hmm.
in today's day and age, everything is happening so fast, everything's happening so quickly,
Right.
things are moving so fast. It's like, by the time you're of a certain age, there are these things that I should have achieved this, 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 this. It's not necessary because I didn't have those opportunities. Now it's too late and it's done. It's not
Right.
necessary. I mean, look at my YouTube channel. I started it much later.
So I'll come on to YouTube in a while. I'll come to your YouTube in a
Yeah,
while. I have a few questions here before where I want to stick to the personality thing and the skill set thing, and
yeah,
just to kind of add, I think one of the biggest examples is Boman Irani, right? I
sure.
was reading one of his documentary. I think he's one of those modern age actors who says that till 40, I think 42, I think that was the age, he was
Yes,
not even into the movie industry. And
correct,
look at the kind of talent that guy is,
correct.
right?
And he
Yeah.
he got the opportunity and then he just grabbed it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's
So
another. Sorry.
go ahead.
Before we go on to your next question. Um, I was the kind of person that used to say no to a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would be like, नहीं यार मैं ये करूँगी फिर ये होगा मैं वो करूँगी तो ये होगा. Now I say no very rarely.
Okay.
And I grab most opportunities that do come my way, unless of course it's something really like, I mean, I got an opportunity to go on Bigo Live. Am I going to do that? No. So, like I
Right.
said, unless it's something like that, which you will weigh out for yourself, the more things you say yes to, the more things you get exposed to.
Okay. So rather than going on to my next question, I think this is a very interesting insight that you've given, and I want to kind of let's stick to this before we jump on to the
Okay.
next part. So because I think a lot of times people accept and reject opportunities, and it's a very so there's no clear cut black and white thing, right? I may grab this opportunity, I may not grab this opportunity, and the result is not instant, right? Sometimes you go for A and then if you miss on B, or you go for B and then you miss on A, right? So
Yes.
what's your mantra, or how do you evaluate at this point in time? Now you have enough on your plate and you have enough opportunities coming in. How do you evaluate? Of course, like although you're saying that I'm accepting at least most of them, and I'm sure you are analyzing them through a certain framework you've
Yeah.
created. But
Yeah.
what's your general advice in terms of evaluating opportunities and grabbing onto the opportunities?
So, there have been many missed opportunities in my life.
Okay.
There have been moments where, like you said, A opportunity has come up and then suddenly B opportunity, and they both, let's say, are bookings on the same day. Now, then you can't say yes, right? How are you going to
Right.
split yourself? How are you going to split yourself into two? There's a couple of factors at this point that come into play. The Parsi in me is very honest, and the Parsi in me truly believes that it's always about the right thing to do. So if I have said yes to a certain booking, I don't go back to that person and say, I got another opportunity, which is a bigger opportunity, and I need to leave your thing. Once I have done that, because the booking happened, I got booked a month in advance. So I said
Right.
to myself, you know what? They'll be able to find someone else. It's 1 month. It's a
Hmm.
lot of time. You're not like
Hmm.
ditching somebody in the end moment and you're not leaving them in the end moment.
Hmm.
Now, how do you decide between these two opportunities that which is the better one? There's a couple of things, right? You will know, because now I'm going to talk from a very my point of view as a person who goes on stage, or as an actor. Uh, Money is always one driving force.
Okay.
Okay, because you do know that the bigger the opportunity, the better the money will always be.
Of course. Absolutely.
It's obvious and it's correlated with each other.
Absolutely.
Secondly, is that what difference does this opportunity make to my future, the way I'm projected and the way I'm seen in the future? So now what are people going to, how are they going to perceive me, and how am I projected to the public based on this opportunity?
Right.
And today, everything that you do, especially in this line, will stay on the internet forever.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be there for posterity. It's going to be there. So there's nothing that you can do about something
Hmm,
like
hmm,
that. So you got to be
hmm.
really careful in terms of,
Right,
uh, how well will this opportunity really work for me in the future and how will I be seen?
right.
And then I also think because मेरे line में तो ऐसा ही है, there is also a certain amount of thing of relationship.
Hmm, hmm,
But the way I perceive it also is that it's
hmm.
good to build new relationships.
Right, right. So
So
I think that,
if
yeah, go ahead.
so if this is going to give me more work and this is going to open a new door for me and a new
Right.
pathway completely, I will go in that direction because the person I've already made a relationship with knows me and knows the value of my work.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. I think the most important takeaway, and especially people who are watching this right now, and most importantly, the early stage students, early professionals, and kids, young guys who aspire to be like you, I think the most critical thing and the most important lesson I can take out from this entire discussion, like the past 10-minute discussion that we had, is that be true to your profession and be true to people, right? I think what you said that, I have never ditched anybody. I think that's a very high ethic in terms of work. Money is of course a byproduct. I personally believe that money is a byproduct, and
Yeah.
money will definitely come. But I think if your ethics are very strong, I think you are here for the long term game then, and nobody can replace you then, right?
Yeah, and whichever industry you're in, you should always remember that whichever industry, whether it's a network of doctors, lawyers, whichever,
Hmm.
everyone knows everyone.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
and everyone is watching everyone.
Hmm.
And if you do go and do something, most of the time people will find out. Don't think that, this is going to stay between
Right.
you and that other person. And
Right.
especially in an industry like this, which is very client driven,
Hmm.
whether it is me being on Instagram, me being on YouTube, me as a master of ceremonies or on a TV show, it's
Hmm.
very client driven. And so the street cred is very, very important in today's day and
Yes.
age. Street cred is like all the way up here. And people there will be a lot of people that would want to bring your street cred down.
Yes. Huh.
So if you open that door and you give it even the slightest crack, someone's
Yep.
going to latch onto that opportunity and want to watch you go down.
I think that's a very important lesson that you've shared, and I think it really means, coming from a professional like you, I think that's a very credible and very important lesson. I'll just quickly bring back conversation back to the personality part, which was my second question or I want to talk about. So, because a few people said that, hey, we haven't worked on a personality yet, right? Or we want to develop a personality, right? Of course, by now I think people would realize, or they can, when they listen to us talking, they would say, okay, for one point, let me think that, okay, the looks do not matter, but personality is what matters. What are the top three things you as a professional, especially in your industry, can talk about? Uh, how can one develop a good personality? Of course, I'm putting off reading and learning at this point in time because I'll talk separately on that. But other than that, what are the things one needs to do in terms of improving their personality to be a good fit into this industry? Because a few people who reach out to me are exactly into the or aspiring to be in the same domain. Yeah.
So, I definitely think that for personality development, there is a certain amount of also one of the biggest things, and this is something that I talk about a lot on my YouTube channel back
Hmm.
as well, is that people really taking care of yourself. And how does one
Just
do
repeat.
that? How does one
Just
take?
repeat the last thing, please, because I think there was some sort of a blur. Just repeat that.
Yeah. So this is something that I talk about a lot on my YouTube channel WAC. And we really, really undermine the importance of this. And we also feel that this is something that we should start doing later in life.
Hmm.
But this is something that I do think that people should start doing as teenagers only, which is exercise. I
Okay.
cannot tell you how important exercise is. You might be thinking right now that what does that have to do with my personality?
Hmm.
Like, what is she talking about, right? Exercise, again, it's something physical, it's appearance. No, it's
Hmm.
not. There is a certain correlation between once you really start feeling good about yourself, once you really start loving the reflection that you see in the mirror, no,
Hmm. Hmm.
you will start believing in yourself. And there
Hmm.
will be a certain amount of more that you want to start investing in yourself.
Hmm.
So there is a big correlation between exercise and your personality developing. The next
Okay.
I think is that having a sense of humor about everything and not
Okay.
taking yourself too seriously. Because now you've told me to leave learning and reading aside,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
biggest and the main and the most important thing, if someone has to develop their personality.
Hmm.
But just having a sense of humor, I make fun of myself all the time.
Hmm.
When I am goofy, when I am silly, I celebrate that. I am not
Hmm.
ashamed of people now perceiving me in a particular way. I can
Right.
take a joke really, really well. I know the difference between a joke and an insult, basically.
Hmm.
So I feel that when you slowly stop taking yourself and you stop taking the world around you also very seriously, na, and you
Hmm.
become a little bit like enjoying the world, enjoying everything around you, there is a certain amount of like centering and a calmness that does just automatically start taking place.
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, you become a more jovial person, you become a more likable person, and a certain amount of personality development is that, right? You want people to instantly like you.
Right. Right. So I had a few more questions. I'll skip them for a while now because I think this conversation is going in a direction which is very interesting. And
This
now
is so
let me
this is different from what we had planned.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why when two chatterboxes get online, I think this is what happens. This was exactly the same joke which was happening in my office today. There when we were talking about all of this, and people were like, "You just keep on talking," and that's same with me. I keep on. I like talking to people. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Rather, it's a very famous thing that I speak about during my conversation. That my co-founder Neha, she does all the job, and I'm the guy just who talks. That's it. I'm that's what I do. Okay.
It's great.
Uh, so coming back to the thing, I think now when we're saying so much that, and a lot of people would take it in a way that, hey, these guys are just talking about it, you need to talk, right? But I think
Yeah.
talking is the most difficult part because you need to learn a lot, read a lot, and have a lot of knowledge about that. And of course, whether it's audiobooks or podcasts or YouTube channels or things like that, and of course you might say that your learning and researching curve has gone down, but I don't personally believe that, because when we were speaking yesterday, if you're spending 5 to 6 hours researching on a topic just in order to make a video, I'm sure the kind of level of understanding about multiple things you would have, I'm very sure they would go at the next level. uh, so now this brings me to the
We'll
most
get to
important.
that. Huh? We'll get to that
Sorry.
because we will get to that part because
Hmm.
it is one of the things I get asked a lot,
Hmm.
which is how long does it take for you to make a YouTube video and what is your process?
Boom. So that's the next point I want to come on, because now I want to redirect the entire conversation about the WAC, because I think we are doing it on YouTube. Let's talk about YouTube stuff. So I was
Okay.
just going through a TEDx talk, and I think that's a very important lesson in that entire talk. And I think I love the title as well. That how a non-smart person like me entered into a TEDx talk. And I know you're very very smart. I think the one thing that I have put it out here in my notes, which
Huh.
is a very important learning, which is let me figure it out. I think if you have this let me figure it out attitude, or if you take this thing as a mantra for success, I think you will be able to do in everything. So let's talk about VAC for a while. How did it all started? What motivated you to get into VAC? How is it doing right now? What are future plans? And how can an aspiring content creator come on YouTube and get started?
So I just feel that there are. So you want to really get into how I got into wax, but I'll do it really fast because
Yeah, quickly, yeah.
काफी लोगों को पता है, and this is a session where we want people to learn, and I really want people to get really good takeaways in terms of knowledge. So basically, I knew I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and
so
I knew.
Before you jump there, I just want to kind of add one more point, and I'm really sorry I'm interrupting. See, a lot of times when I talk to people, especially young guys, they don't know why they want to do anything. They get influenced then they want to do anything. But I believe a lot of times when you're doing something, it's more of an internal drive that makes you do it in the long run, right? And I believe, and people should go and watch your TEDx talk. I think you have very well answered that into that talk, that why you entered into this entire thing, right? So when I say you started, I also want to throw that information on people that it's not just some random thing or some fluke that you do something and that it becomes a success. It's a planning and it's a drive that creates what is an outcome, right? So that's what that was the point. Yeah. So over to you, please.
So basically, YouTube had started. There was a lot of stuff happening on YouTube. There was this desire to be over there and talk to people.
Right.
And I also knew at the end of the day, I wanted to do something which was true to myself. So this has been a big, important part of my life that, a lot of people don't know, but I used to do Hindi TV serials. And I had literally done like a proper, it wasn't like a Saas Bahu, but it was like a Saas Bahu of young people. Other than Kampala Investigation Agency, which was a really fun show to be on. It was the Indian version of Famous Five. This other show, it was on Z. And wahan pe, I was the negative character and I was making big eyes and I was doing all those stereotypical things that TV was then. Today things have changed. So I'm not going to, say that it's stuck in that age. But it was stuff that it was something that I realized that I woke up every morning hating myself. I woke up every morning saying, oh my God, I have to go to work and I have to say those lines. And then I turned to myself and the people close to me were like, why are you doing that to yourself? Nay, I'm famous and people know me and, the money is really good and all of that, in my head, I'm thinking all of that. But they were like, but you're so unhappy. What is wrong with you? You're just terribly unhappy. You need to quit. And I did. I did. So I've always been someone who has tried to, and that was a big learning for me, that I can quit and I will survive. Nothing will go that wrong. Things will work eventually. So when I wanted to come on YouTube, I knew that I needed to do something where I will be completely true to myself. And I knew that at that time, there was a lot of girls are mostly they don't do tech unless you are somebody who's into tech, which I'm not. Because you have to have that technical knowledge. Then there is that thing, like hair, makeup, fashion, At that time, there were those notions about
stereotypical environment, right?
And I'm not going to take away from content creators who do that. They are fantastic at what they do. It's very hard work. But I knew that I wasn't going to be true to myself if I did that. And I needed to do something where I could be unique and I could be true to myself. And this is something that I heard in Startup Jalsa. By then I had started my YouTube channel, but when I heard this line, I said, my God, it makes so much sense. Find where the void is and fill that void. Be the one that fills that void in. So find out
you'll have
where
to repeat that again.
it's
Sorry.
less, where the
again
gap.
It got kind of blurred. Again, it got, I think, blurred. You'll have to repeat that, yeah.
Find where the void is and fill that gap. Find out where people are not doing something in that particular area, but there
Right.
might be a demand for it, and fill that gap. That's when you know that you're doing something really unique.
Right.
With WAC, I then realized that there was nobody that was doing videos on knowledge and on facts.
Right.
And so I said, okay, no one is doing this, and this seems like something I might enjoy. I love researching, and I love, doing that. And I said, let me start on that journey. And basically, that is exactly how WAC happened. Now,
Right.
coming to actually starting the channel, and I say this every single time, I made the first WAC video 10 times before
Yeah.
I shared it.
Yes.
Because I knew that I have to just work on it, work on it. And a lot of people always say, I don't know where to start. Yes, I know it's very tough, but you have all the technology with you. You just don't have the switch on button to start. That's what it is. I shot all my first couple of WAC videos on my phone. And even today, I shoot some videos on my phone. I have a 1,000 rupee mic that I use. I don't have fancy equipment.
Right. Right.
Like, oh my God, these are like, there are certain things that we need to do. Because I know that at the end of the day, content is king.
Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
I say the right things, even if it is lowly produced, it will still do really, really well.
Right. So anybody who's trying to get into the YouTube game, right, especially in the content space, right? What are the top three tips you should give to him, or what are the top three things one should keep in mind while entering into the YouTube game?
So I definitely think first you need to decide what the channel is going to be and
Okay.
how many people are already doing that.
Okay.
The more unique your channel is, the better your chances are of succeeding.
Okay.
Secondly, everyone will turn around and say, oh my God, it's 2020. Isn't it too late to do YouTube?
Exactly.
I don't think it's too late. In fact, with the circumstances that the world is in right now, content consumption has not doubled, has not tripled. It has gone up 4 times. And India is the second largest consumers of the internet in the world. Just
Right.
because of the default population of 1 crore 38,000 that we have. By default, this is it. We are always number one, number two in a lot of lists because of that.
Absolutely. Right. Right. Right.
किधर भी जाओ यार, कुछ भी list देखो, उसमें India है top 10 में. Why? Because we are so many people.
Right. Absolutely.
That's why we're there. Yeah.
Right.
Except for when it comes to high GDPs and high economies, the way we don't fit in those lists.
Absolutely. So in fact, Rajar, yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
So yeah, kya tha? Shit, I lost my thought also. Okay, we were talking about
the three tips. So
what
one,
are
of
the
course,
three tips?
three things. Yeah.
Yeah. How unique is my channel?
Yep.
No, it is not to start a channel.
Yep.
And the third thing is that there is a lot of technical knowledge that is needed. Okay. I can see that I have a lot of my followers over here that are part of this conversation. And
yes.
Hi. So one thing that a lot of them know is that my channel had to go through a 2-year gap where I had to stop making content because of this whole legal thing that was going on. You can always go to my WAC page and there is a video over there where I've spoken about the whole thing. So I'm not going to get into it again over here at this point in this conversation. Because there were other people that were handling a lot of technical things, when I had to restart the channel, it was very challenging for me. And you would think, but this is somebody who already had a channel. So why is
Hmm.
it suddenly so challenging, right?
Hmm.
Because there were certain aspects of my channel that were being taken care of. It was a partnership.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
There is that technical knowledge that is needed, and YouTube provides you with that technical knowledge. You don't
Hmm.
need to be worried about that. It's called as the YouTube Creator Academy. It is a
Right.
long course that needs to be done. And I went and I redid it. I had done it then. I went and I redid it. And even today, when I sit on the internet, I
Hmm.
sit and I really like go through, training videos. I go through a lot of like what is out there, what are the techniques that people are using. I'm constantly trying to learn and figure that part out.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's also the idea behind what we're trying to do is because we're trying to summarize all the information. So I think if somebody who is aspiring YouTuber would watch this, you would of course take the 3 tips, and then of course you've already spoken about the Creators Academy. So I think it's a good tip for people aspiring to get into the YouTube game, right? And then, of course,
Yeah.
we've spoken about the point from the learning point of view and the knowledge point of view and the reading point of view. Before I jump onto the next part, how
Hmm.
important you think? So two-part question. One, how important you think your foundation as a kid helped you in gaining this edge in terms of learning? Number one. Number two, how important was your this BA in English literature thing or whatever course you did? Again, important in terms of had importance in terms of laying the foundation of your researching and reading habits. Because I know guys who, if I ask them to research, uh, people can't research. It's difficult for people to sit for 5 hours or 3 hours rather, or maybe 1 hour and read and research. So, how important was the
Yeah.
foundation because of both of those things? And how can people develop this habit? What are the baby steps they can take?
So definitely the foundations that I had as a child
Mm-hmm.
were very, very important in terms of me as a communicator.
Mm-hmm.
We've spoken about all of that earlier in the conversation.
Right.
I'll say that line again. I think I went
Yes.
again.
Yes.
We've spoken about my childhood and how important the little things that my parents made me do
Hmm.
really helped in terms of me as a communicator and being confident.
Hmm.
The second thing in terms of my BA literature, honestly मैं बोलूँ कुछ फायदे का नहीं है. आज मेरे काम में मुझे पूछता है कि what is your degree? Nobody
I
asks,
don't know.
nobody cares. Like I could have.
I don't know. There's some sort of a glitch happening. It's constantly breaking. Should we take a 10-second break
That
and
could be my.
check the connection? Yeah, let's both of us check it because uh,
Uh,
this is the. I'm sure either. Uh, let's
it must be
quickly.
mine. I'm having a terrible internet day.
Sorry.
I'm having a terrible internet day.
Yeah, it went off on the bad time. No, mine is pretty
So
decent. I think now people also know the internet speeds we're
yeah,
having.
yeah, yeah. It is. Yeah. Okay. Is it better?
Yeah, better. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
We were
we were
talking
talking
about the
about.
two foundations.
Hmm.
Yeah. Somewhere I also feel that what in today's day and age there are a lot more things that you can actually learn pertaining to what industry you want to get into. So there
Hmm.
are courses that you can do in events. There are
Hmm.
courses that you can do, for media. It's a little
Right.
more specialized, and all those
Hmm.
options are available. And I
Right.
definitely think that they are very important and they're worth doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But at the end of the day, a hands-on experience in anything is always going to be the best.
Okay, so let's now go back onto the journey part, and I think you've already spoken about how you got started, and then the importance of theaters and small things that you did, and they were of course done as a game or they were pushed in by the parents, but I think they really helped you to group the personality. So now it's again a two-part question. One, what are the most important skill sets, again, other than what we have spoken about, which are very particular to your profession in terms of as a communicator or as a master of ceremonies or a TV presenter, somebody who's not just talking, but this entire thing is a package. It's a face and a personality and a charisma and a conversation and a talk. It's a different job altogether, right? It needs
Yeah.
multiple multiple things combined together. So what are the most important skill sets around your profession? And yeah, let's talk about that a little first.
So other than the obvious ones that you've listed right now, there is obviously confidence that is needed,
Okay.
because at the end of the day, you are going to go in front of, like, I mean, I do shows that scale anywhere from 60 people, because let's say it's 60 CEOs of really big companies that have come together, to 5,000 people. And I'm confident speaking in front of a big number of people and an important number of people also.
Yes.
The second thing I also think that's very important is to have a certain amount of adaptability and a certain amount of saying that I can go do a rock concert and I can also go host a doctor's conference. And I can
Right.
understand who my audience is, who am I talking today, and what is the tone that I need to set. So to understand that that one way of speaking is not going to always work for the different audiences that you will get exposed to.
Right.
So to have that certain amount of adaptability and to be able to, camouflage with the environment that you're in seamlessly. I know that the most successful shows I have are the ones where people come and tell me, "Are you employed by the organization? What department do you work in?"
Oh, okay.
That for me is like the most successful show that I have had. And I don't take it as like an ego thing of like, "Arey, you don't know who I am. I come on TV and all. Why?" I don't go in that direction. I take it as a compliment, because that means I merged in so well, and you connected so well with everything that I had to say, that you thought I was a part
Of the
that
organization.
you thought that I was a part of your organization.
Right. Right.
So so that's another thing that you really need. The
Right.
third thing I also think is that you should have the knowledge of being able to write your own scripts.
Okay.
Now, see, this is something I use, whether it is my YouTube, whether it is my travel shows, or whether it is me as a master of ceremonies. I use this skill, this particular skill, I use it everywhere. And it's very important to be able to write your own script. If it's a very big event, somebody will present a script to you. They will
Just
give you a
repeat
script.
that last
That
part.
will
Just repeat
always
that last
happen.
part. I missed the third point. Sorry. You need to
If
repeat
it
the
is
last part.
okay, but the part about the script you got, right?
Yeah, I got the script part. Yeah.
If it is a very big event, somebody will always come and give you a script. But
Okay.
your job as an MC is not to walk on stage and read that script. Your job as an MC is to take that script, make it yours, and still make it for them as well. That is
Right.
your job. It is nobody's paying you to come and read from a piece of paper. I have बहुत सारे shows होते हैं where you get to co-host with a lot of big TV personalities, with a lot of film stars, because there is a certain, like, they want that kind of glamour quotient to be there at the event कि कोई बड़ा star आया है. They've come to host as well.
Hmm.
People like that. But all of them, most of them, will
Hmm.
lead from a script.
Hmm.
And at that point, that is when me, Freishia as an MC now, will come on par with them. Because you won't see
Okay.
me leading. You will see
Okay.
me making eye contact. You will see me connecting with the audience.
Right. 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 Right.
And
Right.
that is where you get that upper hand.
Absolutely. So I think this is a good survival tip also in this industry, right? I had a question on that how can, like, because I think it's very very important to be on the top of a game, and I think the kind of knowledge bombs you're dropping here, I think that they're really of very high value for people who want to get into your space, especially. Uh, I have another question related to this. So how do you post COVID and even in the COVID era, although it's immaterial, what era we live in, but from the learner's point of view, how do you think your industry has changed and transformed? And is there anything new you think people need to learn and understand and acquire in terms of knowledge and understanding, or things are going to be just be the same? Of course, events are not happening in physical anymore, but I'm sure maybe 6 months, 1 year, 2 years down the line, things will go back to normal and we'll continue the
Of
life as it
course.
was. But
Yeah.
do you think is there any additional skill set, any additional mindset, anything else is required now for the upcoming MCs?
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely think that, if I had maybe the additional skill set of being a singer,
Oh,
or I had the additional skill set of being a stand-up comedian. आज के ज़माने में लोगों के पास बजट्स नहीं है, तो
hmm,
अगर एक बंदा है जो दो चीज मेरे लिए कर सकता है, मेरे ऑडियंस का मतलब प्रेजेंटेशन भी होने वाला है और एंटरटेनमेंट भी होने वाला है. A lot of
right.
clients do, they like that. Whether they then use you as a singer or they use you only as an MC is their prerogative. But I definitely know that there are some MCs out there who have that upper thing, especially right now where the budgets are very bad. I
Hmm,
think in the future that is always a good thing to have.
right.
Now I'm not going to become a singer. That's not going to happen. Uh, no, but I definitely think that if you start, thinking that, okay, what is the other thing other than as an MC? What is the other skill set that I can have as well?
Hmm.
Then your chances are a little higher. They're a little
Hmm.
better,
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Especially like right now. Secondly,
Hmm.
I think that what has happened with events right now is that they have moved into a virtual space.
Right.
And because it has moved into this virtual space right now, you need to also understand how to be really good on camera and talk to people. Because before
Hmm.
you were, you're just in front of a large audience. So your
Right.
actions are you're much louder, you're much more like, hey guys, whatever, right? You're projecting so much more.
Right. Right.
Now you have to
Right.
learn that I'm talking to them through such a small lens. So
Right.
again, you have to figure out how to adapt your content to this virtual world of events.
Do you think your YouTube thing helped you with this?
Uh, I think
Because
I was already,
because you're always
I was
camera friendly, you're making videos and things like that. So do you think it
correct.
it kind of came as an aid in the entire thing, and it was a skill set you knew right before, while others were coping up or thinking of getting into the space, you already
Yeah.
knew the game and you were like, bam, hey, I'm here.
I don't think I knew, but I think that actually being on TV and hosting TV
Oh,
shows, I think the connect comes from there because I was hosting TV shows before I had the YouTube channel.
okay, okay. So
And
yeah,
it comes
go
it
ahead.
comes from,
And what happened for you first? So was TV the beginning or was emceeing the beginning?
it was all very parallel, and maybe something was going really well and then something else was coming in the forward and then again something was taking a back seat, and now
Mm-hmm.
I think like there is a certain amount of like everything happening together. So I'll do
Okay.
like 1-2 TV shows in a year, and then I'll still have my events going on, and YouTube is something that is anyways now, once again, it's going to be a part and parcel. That's going to be on.
Right. So let's now talk a bit about the TV game, right? So how's the TV thing happening? Of course, I'm not talking about the recent 6 months, but in general, like people who are listening and want to get into the TV space, I think it's really tough to crack, right? One, I want to give you because we were having this conversation. I know you are from Bombay itself, Mumbai rather. So
I still say
how
Bombay.
you still call it Bombay. I think that's a nicer word in terms of sounding, in terms of sound. I still sometimes call it Bombay, and people like, hey, Mumbai. I'm like, okay.
I
So,
never
whatever.
correct.
Okay, yeah. So, how has it helped you in terms of being from Mumbai itself? Number one, number two, because you're born and brought up there, and your family has been there, right? Number one, and also, how has the TV game changed? What are the key pointers that people need to take care in terms of understanding, in terms of getting into the TV space? I want to talk about a little. I want you to talk a little about that.
So I think that there are so many different things that you can do in TV, right? Like, do you want to be a
Mhm.
TV actor? Do you want to be a presenter? Do you want to be a news anchor? Uh,
We'll stick to the presenter part.
okay, so sticking to the presenter part, I think I would recommend that in today's
Hmm.
day and age, to start on a digital space makes it much easier for you to then hop on to the TV space. It's changed now.
Okay.
पहले also
Okay.
क्या था ना कि हाँ, because if your digital presence is very high and your digital footprint is very high, then the
Hmm.
TV guys will automatically kind of follow, and and the two are very correlated, especially.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially now, because now, if you've noticed, a lot of TV channels are even shutting down, or they're not even
Right.
having so much importance in terms of the presentation
Hmm. Hmm.
space.
Hmm. Hmm.
There is,
Right.
a certain amount of like, they're looking for people who have that digital presence, and that I think is very important.
And I also believe that drives a lot of traffic to TV then, right? It's all parallel now. Digital is equal to TV, and I think, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So what are the tips? So okay, so let's not get into the tips thing anymore, because I think if you are good with digital game, TVs will automatically come. Uh, Last part I want to talk about before we wrap the conversation. I think they're already on a 57-minute mark, and I think it's a pretty interesting conversation. I can say it for maybe another a couple of hours, I would say rather, but I don't want to kind of block your time much more than this. Uh,
तो एक सेकंड फिर रुको, मैं कॉफी बना के आती हूँ.
You should do one thing. I'll rather do one thing. I host something called as AMA with DNK. I've recently started it. So I'm
हाँ,
just saying it, for the general conversation chit chat thing. So I was always doing AMAs, right, for startups and entrepreneurship and things like that. And I officially started doing now hosting AMAs, where I'm picking up a topic, I'm talking about that. I hosted at 9 p.m. in the night, and there's no deadline to it. So now
okay.
I start at 9. Earlier I thought I'll start at 10. I've done emails at like 11 or 12, or maybe sometimes 1 in the night as well, when I'm getting bored and have nothing else to do. But
हाँ,
9 p.m. is a good time, and I'm doing it on the Saturday night. So I have nothing else to do in life. I sit with a mug of coffee. I have a couple of questions which have already come to me. I'm just answering those questions. I'm having my cup of coffee.
yeah.
So I think I'll ask you to come sometime and be a part on AMA with
Sure,
DNK sometimes.
sure,
You can rather answer a
sure.
couple of questions around your stuff. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
surely do that
yeah,
sometime. So last 2 points I want to quickly talk about, and then we'll wrap. One
yeah.
is especially talking about the Indian kids and unconventional careers, right? If you go to your mom and dad and say, "Hey, I want to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, or whatever, or maybe something like that," people are fine with that. But still, careers like emceeing or TV presenter, stand-up comic, or YouTuber, Indian parents, especially from the middle class, do not still accept them as a viable careers, although they're really good careers, right? How was your relationship journey support from your family? And if, let us say, there's a kid watching this who thinks my family is not supporting me, what are the tips and advice you would give them, so that if not the family gets convinced, but what are the things he needs to kind of keep in mind, so that there's some sort, if not a friction, but some sort of neutral thing that happens, if if they want to
So,
pursue a career in this domain. Yeah.
so I'll tell you the biggest joke that happened with me. Because of my parents, I was doing theater.
Okay.
You know, I did acting, and then I did all of that. Then that bug, that theater ka bug, it caught on, and I did it as a child, and I did it in school, and I did it in college. And then when I was in my final year, in my 5th year, in my TY BA, my dad turned to me and said, "Acha, tu karne kya wale ho?" So I said,
Okay.
Meaning, I'm doing this. I'm going to continue. So he said, nahi, wo to hobby hai na, beta. I was like, Dad, I've been doing this like since I was 5 years old. I'm 20 today.
Mm.
And that would have been like a really long hobby. Like, it's not a hobby. I'm going to professionally act. Nahi.
Right.
That you can't do. That you can't do. That is not a profession. And
Okay.
at that point, I mean, my whole world was like, I felt like it was all just like a big lie. Like, I felt like everything that I had been working towards and everything that I had been building towards, suddenly I was told that that was not even like worth it. And it wasn't even like a profession. And I listened to my dad, and I did not continue acting as soon as I graduated. I got a job in radio, and
Okay.
I worked in a radio station. And as I was working over there, I worked there for almost 2.5, 3 years, 2 years. And I started realizing, but I'm miserable and I can't do this. And then I said to myself, you know what? I've made some money out of my radio work and my career. And I was doing really, really well in that radio station. By the time I quit, I was the assistant head of programming over there.
Okay.
So I was doing really well in my radio career. And I said, okay, what I will do is that I will get into acting. I will try and figure it out. And I won't depend on my parents. I won't be a burden on them.
Right.
And then maybe I will prove to them that this is a viable option. And let me tell you, the first year did not go very well for me. I didn't get work. Whatever work I got was really shit. My father was so upset, and he was so like, I told you so, you're doing the wrong thing, you're investing in the wrong thing. And I had to battle a lot of that and a lot of things that I had to convince them and then say, okay, look, this is actually working out. And so my advice would be is that if you stop letting your parents then be that you're going to be a burden on them, and there is something that you can parallelly do where you can take that boj matlab thoda agar halka ho jaye,
Right.
then they're not going to have a reason to also tell you that you're doing the wrong thing.
Okay. So despite the fact it was more inculcated from the parents' side, you still had a push or push back from their side in terms of okay. And how like, other than of course getting into something parallel, like you said, that you get a side hustle or a side job and make some money. I think because it's more from a security point of view other than anything else. I especially feel either your parents are after your life because of the society issue or the security point of issue. I think these are the only two things why they are even bothered, right? So I also want you to emphasize a little more onto people into the initial struggling years. I think that's a very good point that you've raised, and in fact, rather that was my last closing question. That how to cope up in the initial struggling years. Now, of course, you have enough work coming in. Now you have enough talks. People know you. You have more projects where you can reject the projects and you will not pick up a few. But initially it's difficult. A lot of times people go for shitty jobs or less paying jobs, or sometimes they also work for free, right? So how do you cope up in those initial 3, 4, 5 years of your career? Especially as I said, it's an unconventional line. There's no benchmark, right? So what are your tips? What are your advices there?
So the thing is, I don't think I've ever worked for free.
Okay.
I've never worked for free. I've always had. No, I'm just generally saying. that I'm always, the only time I've worked for free is if I've done it for charity.
Okay. Right.
Then I've done it for free. So sometimes you do like a charity concert or a charity show. What happens is that they say, okay, we will take your fee and then you donate that back to the cause.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Something like that, then fine. If today, because the competition is also so tough, I understand that somebody might need to do something for free.
Right.
I understand. I get that. But if that doing it for free is going to open, only if it is going to open 10 doors for you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Only then you should do it.
Right.
Otherwise, I would never ever recommend doing anything for free. And I'll tell you something, the people that I have said no to, maybe that project has not worked out, but they have come back to me. So don't think that, oh, I will lose this particular client or they will never think about me again. That is not the case. They will come back to you because they will also respect you.
Right. Absolutely. But how do you cope up in the initial years, right? So answer it in multiple perspectives. So from the money point of view, how do you cope up in the initial years? From the family pressure point of view, how do you cope up in the initial years? From the societal or peer pressure point of view, how do you cope up in the initial years? I think these are very strong factors in every. At least I can talk from an entrepreneur's point of view. Any entrepreneur, any early stage startup, anybody who's trying to get into an unconventional line, right, or trying to be on his own something, right? I think these are pretty evident problems. When I was in the initial years, my friends were already buying expensive luxury cars after 3 4 5 years of working in US, and I was still struggling to pay my own rent. So and this is a more like a business line, right? Especially in the creative line is more cutthroat, right? So I just want to understand your perspective from that point. So let's go one by one. Family. Let's talk about family first. How do you cope up with the family?
No, I think all three have the same answer.
Okay.
And I guess, so I'm going to be very frank over here. I find it a little difficult to. It depends on also the kind of family you come from. Okay.
Of course. Of course.
Like what your background is. Are your parents also able to kind of support you in a certain way? What are your circumstances? कौन कहाँ से आ रहा है, किधर से आ रहा है, क्या बैक स्टोरी है, सबका मतलब अलग अलग होता है.
Yeah.
So this is such a layered thing to kind of answer,
Yeah. And I think it's a session in itself. You need to know who's listening to this and how they decode it. Yeah. But I'm just asking from the generic point of view, because I know, we might not be able to dissect everything, and I'm not talking about any special circumstances. So people who come from a good financial background family, I think they'll have a less friction. People who come from a middle class would have higher friction, or weaker financial background would have higher friction. Yeah, but just want a general perspective from your side.
But from a very general perspective, for all three of them, I would just say a certain amount of resilience is just needed.
Okay.
You just have to be very resilient, and you have to be at it. You just got to be at it. Like you can't take a break. You can't afford to take a break. You can't afford to leave it. I feel terrible having taken that break with my YouTube channel, because the whole flow, everything, I feel like I'm starting again from scratch. Resilience is something that is really, really needed. And to also say that there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days, but this is something that I'm going to invest in. And the second thing, which I think is also very important, and which is the reality as it exists, understanding when to also pull back. So I said that earlier that, it's also good if you are a singer to be an MC. Now I say, okay, I'm going to start taking singing classes and I'm going to try and, do that. Maybe I can add it as a skill set. Maybe I sound nice and maybe I'll be able to do it or whatever. Then I'm at it and I'm at it and I'm at it and I'm at it, but I'm really bad at it and I'm not able to kind of crack it.
Right.
So that understanding and that pehchan bhi hona chahiye na कि okay, this is not working out for me.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I need to cut the cord before I keep living in some bubble.
Knowing about yourself and keep on reinventing yourself, I think it's very important, right?
Yeah, because you also have to realize that okay, ठीक है, ये मुझसे नहीं होगा, लेकिन ये मुझसे होगा. बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो मुझसे नहीं होगा. So I think it needs to be a combination of all of that.
Fantastic. I can go on and on and on, but I want to kind of close it now. We have already 1 minute. So my last question, and it's a very
that was your last question.
No, I have a last objective question. I have like quick 10 seconds. And this should act as a motivation for a lot of people watching this. How many hours do you work in a day? I'm sure, juggling between so many things, you must be putting in a lot of hard work and a lot of hours every day, which people do not. Yeah.
I do. I work a lot, but I also make sure that I take a lot of time out also.
Okay.
Yeah, because then I burn out very fast. I have a tendency to burn out very fast, and I've understood that has happened to me in life. I had to take 6 months off because I burnt out so badly. I burnt out so badly at one point in my life. That I couldn't move. It was literally that bad. And after that, I realized that if I don't take those breaks, so I'm really good at like saying 1 month in the year I travel.
Okay.
I take that whole month off and I travel and I go wherever, and I make it a point to go to like really cool places. So we did like Japan last year. We did South America the year before that. So we take that like 1 month off. But as hard as I do work, I also recognize the fact that I need to take time out for myself. And
I'm glad that. Yeah, go ahead.
And so in a week, like I make sure that there's one day where the computer just goes off.
Okay. I'm glad that I asked that question because it was not an objective answer that you gave, but I think it's pretty important lesson in terms of balancing it out and working out. So I think we'll wrap here. Thank you so much. I really would, from the bottom of my heart, I really thank you a lot for your time. And also let me acknowledge that you've put in so much work with us in terms of designing this entire session, giving us teasers and trailers. So really appreciate your help. So thank you so much for joining today's session. Before I wrap, let me quickly just say that this was Freishia for all of you guys, all those who are going to watch this right now, who are watching this right now, or who are going to watch later on. That's Freishia for you. She's a renowned TV presenter. She's a Master of Ceremonies. She's a corporate show host. She's hosted Hangout America, NTV Good Times, Brand by the Bride. She's the face of multiple programs, a TV actress, a YouTuber, a travel blogger, and whatnot all. So thank you so much, Freishia, for joining us today. And I hope to host you in one of my AMAs very soon. And have a good day. Thank you so much. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, tuning in today. We'll wrap. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.